Lord Shiva, being thus pacified by the words of Lord Brahma, spoke as follows in answer to Lord Brahma's request. Text number 2. Lord Shiva said, "My dear father, Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods, because these demigods are childish and less intelligent. I do not take a serious view of their offenses, and I have punished them only in order to right them." Oh, that's a very nice statement. Purport, in other words, he's not punishing them to kill them. He's punishing or to completely, let's say, uh, debunk them as not having any relevance. No, I've punished them only in order to right them. Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two types of punishment. One is that which a conqueror imposes on an enemy, and the other is like that a father imposes on his son. There is a gulf of difference between these two kinds of punishment. Lord Shiva is by nature a Vaishnava, a great devotee, and his name in this connection is Asutosha. He's always satisfied, and therefore he did not become angry as if he were an enemy. He's not inimical, meaning doesn't have any hatred to any living entity. Rather, he always wishes the welfare of all. Whenever he chastises a person, it is just like a father's punishment of his son. Lord Shiva is like a father because he never takes seriously any offense by any living entities, especially the demigods. Text number 3. Lord Shiva continued, since the head of Daksha has already been burned to ashes, he will have the head of a goat. The demigod known as Bhaga will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. And Mitra is a demigod. I'm trying to think what he is. Anyway, we'll keep reading. Text number 4. The demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples. And if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpea flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of the sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. Well, I guess there's something that has a negative connotation as eating dough made from chickpea flour. Those, it's not so nice to eat like that. Those are like really for poor people. Okay, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The demigod Pusha became dependent on his disciples for chewing. Otherwise, he was allowed to swallow only dough made of chickpea flour. Thus, his punishment continued. He could not use his teeth for eating, since he had laughed at Lord Shiva, deriding him by showing his teeth. Oh yeah, sometimes people who make fun of others. Well, in this case, uh, this person made fun of Lord Shiva by showing his teeth. So then he had a serious reaction for such what you would call uh, un uh, very insulting behavior. The demigod Pusha will be able to chew only through the teeth of his disciples. And if alone, he will have to satisfy himself by eating dough made from chickpea flour. But the demigods who have agreed to give me my share of the sacrifice will recover from all their injuries. Okay, so from each person has a different reaction of insulting Lord Shiva. The demigod Pusha became dependent on his disciples for chewing. Otherwise, he was allowed to swallow only dough made of chickpea flour. Thus, his punishment continued. He could not use his teeth for eating since he had laughed at Lord Shiva, deriding him by showing his teeth. In other words, it was not appropriate for him to have teeth, for he had used them against Lord Shiva. Wow. You have to be really careful about insulting a pure devotee. Text 5. Those who have had their arms cut off will have to work with the arms of Aswini Kumara, and those whose hands were cut off will have to do their work with the hands of Pusha. The priest will also have to act in that manner. As for Brigu, he will have the beard from the goat's head. Okay, now these are all uh, types of punishment for insulting Lord Shiva. Brigu Muni, a great supporter of Daksha, was awarded the beard of the goat's head, which was substituted for the head of Daksha. It appeared from the exchange of Daksha's head that the modern scientific theory that the brain substance is the cause of all intelligent work is not valid. The brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different, but Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. I see that. That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. The real intelligence, mind and consciousness, are part of the particular individual soul. It would be found in the verses ahead that after Daksha's head was replaced by the goat's head, he was as intelligent as he had previously been. He prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is not possible for a goat to do. Therefore, it is definitely concluded that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. The whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. Okay, that's a major statement. It doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. It is confirmed by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into, specifically anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home on leaving his present material body. Well, it's a very nice statement. The whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. It doesn't matter what kind of brain one has. Because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. It is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home on leaving his present material body. Well, there's a strong argument here why one should become Krishna conscious. Very strong argument. But what's being said is very interesting. It says the brain substance of Daksha and that of a goat are different. But Daksha still acted like himself, even though his head was replaced by that of a goat. The conclusion is that it is the particular consciousness of an individual soul. Particular consciousness of an individual soul which acts. The brain substance is only an instrument which has nothing to do with real intelligence. That is a very profound statement. And that should be, let's say, the source of a great, what you would call, research into real intelligence. The real intelligence, mind, and consciousness are part of the particular individual soul. Yeah, it's not something material. It will be found in the verses ahead that after Daksha's head was replaced by the goat's head, he was as intelligent as he had previously been. He prayed very nicely to satisfy Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, which is not possible for a goat to do. Therefore, it is definitely concluded that the brain substance is not the center of intelligence. All right, and this begs the question, then what is the center of intelligence? It's the soul. It's not the brain. So this is the major problem of modern, what you would call research. They're always trying to find out things by matter, but there are things that are not made of matter. There are things that are made of soul. So that is not understood by modern researchers and psychologists and all kinds of persons who only deal with matter. They have no understanding of the soul. They're not even interested in understanding the existence of the soul. It is the consciousness of a particular soul that works intelligently. The whole movement of Krishna consciousness is to purify the consciousness. It's a major statement. It doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. Now, this should be, let's say, a hint for psychological research. Just like someone, like right now, is one devotee boy uh, is uh, basically is gone crazy, and I think he's in the hospital now. Uh, and only he's only a teenager, but his mind is not working properly, and it happened gradually, and now I think he's in the hospital right now. So it doesn't matter what kind of brain one has, because if he simply transfers his consciousness from matter to Krishna, his life becomes successful. Well, the opposite is true. If he uh, transfers his mind from Krishna to matter, then his life becomes hellish. You see. So it is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to God, back to the home on leaving his present material body. Okay, so let's say you have a son, just like right now here in Seattle, there's a teenage boy. His family are devotees. And basically, he's lost control of his mind. And he's not functional anymore. And it was a gradual, downward spiral. So, what's the solution? Well, he was taken to see doctors, and doctors have given him, medicines or different types of uh, mind changing drugs. Right? But that's not the solution. That's simply a material type of, let's say, treatment. That's all the scientists know about. It's just material treatments. Right? So, what is the solution for such a boy? Now, the boy's in a Krishna conscious family. So here it says, anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Now, we should take that statement very seriously. This is, I know it's not a joke now. This is real serious. Yeah, here's one boy in our congregation who has more or less fallen into an abominable condition of life, and he's not really functional anymore. So, what do you do? Well, here it says, uh, It is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Now, that should be written on a plaque and put up in the temple. And so we should understand that, yes, there is a solution even for mental, let's say, deterioration of a person. It says that it is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home on leaving his present material body. All right, so let's say there's a person who has become, let's say, not capable of concentrating, and who is mentally, let's say, uh, mentally confused. What's the solution? Well, what's it say here? It is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life. So, getting drugs will not necessarily heal a person who has having mental problems. Of course, it might give some temporary, it might seem that one gets temporary relief, but that's not a real solution. However, it says here, it is confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who takes up Krishna consciousness achieves the highest perfection of life, regardless of whatever abominable condition of life he may have fallen into. Specifically, anyone in Krishna consciousness goes back to Godhead, back to home on leaving his present material body. And then we should think about this and meditate on this very seriously. Because sometimes we see even devotees, they are deteriorating little by little into a state of paranoia. And paranoia means that you become afraid and you begin to act very seriously by thinking that you have like ghosts there haunting you or different things like that. Now, why does that happen? Well, it's a weakness of the mind. How does the mind get weak? Well, it's by not chanting Hare Krishna. If a person who is beginning to, let's say, manifest strange types of behavior, if they take to chanting Hare Krishna, and if they can't do it so easily themselves, then the parents or the friends should sit with them regularly every day and chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, to heal a person by doing that, at first, it could take a long time. It's not going to be like immediate, just because you said Hare Krishna once, they're going to get healed. But you have to be patient and you have to have faith in the holy name. And you have to chant honestly, or let's say, sincerely. And even if the person who's like having mental problems cannot really chant yet because of their mental weakness. Still, you should sit down with them, hold their hands if they have to, and just chant Hare Krishna, sincerely. Now, he's not going to get healed right away, but it's going to take time. And you can't get angry, and that person may not be interested in hearing you chant, but you have to keep chanting. And you'll see, eventually they will come around, but it might take some time. Just like they didn't enter that state of mental confusion immediately. It is probably over a period of time. In the same way, they're not going to be healed immediately. It's going to take time. But you have to be convinced that by chanting the holy name and helping that person hear the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra over time, they will eventually become healed of their problem. Okay, so that's the theory. Now we have to see if it's true in the life of someone. You see, the problem is everybody wants an immediate solution. And there's some situations where you're not going to have an immediate solution. And the person did not get into that situation immediately. It happens slowly over time. And then, so it's going to have to be, you have to be very patient and help that person. Just like there was this one lady, I forget her name now. She couldn't hear and she couldn't.
Helen Keller.
Yeah, Helen.
Helen Keller.
Helen Keller. Yeah, Helen Keller. Yeah, Helen Keller. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, she couldn't hear. She could see, but she couldn't hear. Right, but she learned to speak, and she learned to, read, write, everything. Right. She just couldn't hear. But and I think she was blind also.
She was blind.
Yeah.
She was blind and deaf.
Yeah, so she's blind and she can't hear. But yet she learned how to speak. She learned how to communicate. She wrote books.
Yeah, she can speak. I'm still thinking. One second.
Well, when she did speak, she would, let's say you could tell right away it was not the normal speaking.
Yes, she lost her sight and her hearing.
Right.
About for a bout of illness when she was 19 months old.
From what?
When she was 19 months old.
Yeah, what happened?
She had lost her sight and hearing
because of
Okay.
some condition.
Some illness, due to some illness.
Okay. Imagine if that happens to you. You lose your sight and you lose your hearing. But yet, she was able to write books and communicate. She was a very exceptional lady. Very, very exceptional lady. All right. So don't panic and don't get, let's say, discouraged. If Helen Keller was able to do this, it means that you can also do it if you're in that dire situation. Okay, so text number 6. The great sage Maitreya said, "My dear Vidura, all the personalities are present. were very much satisfied in heart and soul upon hearing the words of Lord Shiva, who is the best among the benedictors. So a benedictor is one who's giving blessings. So he's the best blessing giver. In this verse, Lord Shiva is described as Midhustama, the best of the benedictors. That is very merciful, and he's very apt at blessing people. He is also known as Asutosha, which indicates that he is very quickly satisfied and very quickly angered. It is said in Bhagavad Gita that less intelligent persons go to the demigods for material benedictions. In this connection, people generally go to Lord Shiva. And because he is always quickly satisfied and gives benedictions to his devotees without consideration, he is called Midustama, or the best of the benedictors. Materialistic persons are always anxious to get material profit, but they are not serious about spiritual profit. Sometimes, of course, it so happens that Lord Shiva becomes the best benedictor in spiritual life. It is said that once a poor Brahmana worshipped Lord Shiva for benediction, and Lord Shiva advised the devotee to go to see Sanatan Goswami. The devotee went to Sanatan Goswami and informed him that Lord Shiva had advised him to seek out the best benediction from him, Sanatana. Sanatana had a touchstone with him, which he kept with the garbage. On the request of the poor Brahmana, Sanatana Goswami gave the touchstone, and the Brahmana was very happy to have it. In other words, whatever you desire, you can have with that touchstone. He now could get as much gold as he desired simply by touching the touchstone to iron. But after he left Sanatana, he thought, if a touchstone is the best benediction, why has Sanatana Goswami kept it with the garbage? Good question. He therefore returned and asked Sanatana Goswami, sir, if this is the best benediction, why did you keep it with the garbage? Okay, good question. Sanatana Goswami then informed him, actually, this is not the best benediction, but are you prepared to take the best benediction from me? Very good question. The Brahmana said, yes, sir. Lord Shiva has sent me to you for the best benediction. Then Sanatana Goswami asked him to throw the touchstone in the water nearby, meaning once he did that, he would never be able to retrieve it and come back. The poor Brahmana did so. And when he returned, Sanatana Goswami initiated him with, guess what? The Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, by the benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmana got the association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna and was thus initiated in the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare. Okay, well that solves that erases any doubts that this Maha Mantra is the greatest benediction that we can have. You should take it very seriously and chant seriously every day, minimum Hare Krishna Maha Mantra recitation, but there's no maximum. So you can chant, all day long if you want. The more you chant, the better it is. But of course, you can't commit any offenses. There's 10 offenses to the holy name. So you have to avoid that. And the worst of those offenses is to blaspheme a devotee who's dedicated his whole life to propagating Krishna consciousness. You should never insult a devotee like that. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus, by the benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmana got the association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna and was thus initiated in the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. So Sanatana Goswami initiated this poor Brahmana. He initiated him with the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, by the benediction of Lord Shiva, the Brahmana got the association of the best devotee of Lord Krishna and was thus initiated in the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna. I think that's the solution to all problems right there. If you can be blessed by a genuine devotee of Krishna and take up the chanting of Hare Krishna seriously every day as your real, what you would call panacea. That's a good word to look up, panacea, P-A-N something. It means the healing substance that can heal all problems. What does it say?
It says a solution or remedy for all difficulties or diseases.
There it is. So the real panacea is chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Yeah. Haribol. Text number 7. Thereafter, Brigu, the chief of the great sages, invited Lord Shiva to come to the sacrificial arena. Thus, the demigods, accompanied by the sages, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, all went to the place where the great sacrifice was being performed. The whole sacrifice arranged by King Daksha had been disturbed by Lord Shiva. Therefore, all the demigods present there, along with Lord Brahma and the great sages, specifically requested Lord Shiva to come and revive the sacrificial fire. There is a common phrase, Shiva Hina Yajna. Any sacrifice without the presence of Lord Shiva is baffled, meaning confused. Lord Vishnu is Yagyasvara, the Supreme Personality in the matter of sacrifices. Yet, in each yajna, it is necessary for all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, to be present. So, traditional brahmanas, whenever they do a serious sacrifice program, they will have the what do you call it? The leaf, the big leaf of a tree, right? And they'll put it, maybe, I don't know, 20 or 50 or 100 of them, right? With a seat, and invite all the exalted personalities of the world to come, like Lord Shiva and so forth. Of course, you don't see anyone sitting there, but their seat has been given, and they will have some prasadam for these great personalities. Now, you might walk into a ceremony that's taking place, and you see there are all these seats, and but you don't see anyone sitting there. And if you try and sit down, they'll stop you and say, no, 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 this seat is already taken, right? So you get a little confused. You don't know what's going on. But those seats are for the demigods, you know, that they've been invited to come and take part in the yajna. Okay, text number 8. After everything was executed exactly as directed by Lord Shiva, Daksha's body was joined to the head of the animal meant to be killed in the sacrifice. Now that's a real operation. So you see, in ancient times, they knew how to perform operations, how to take the head of a human being off and put the head of an animal on the body, and the person would still function. That means that the physical body is not the actual person. There, the person can function even with a highly impaired physical body, or even no body. They can still function. Okay, purport. This time, all the demigods and great sages were very careful not to irritate Lord Shiva. Therefore, whatever he asked was done. It is specifically said here that Daksha's body was joined to the head of an animal, a goat's head. That's a real surgical operation, right? So you can see how in previous times they knew everything, even how to replace the head of a person with the head of a goat. But still, he's talking and walking like a human being. That proves that there is a reality that is not based on the body. If they can put the head of a goat on a human being, and the person still is alive and is talking and walking, that means that the real person is not the body. There is consciousness. When the animal's head was fixed on the body of King Daksha, and this is a major statement, Daksha was immediately brought to consciousness. And as he awakened from sleep, the king saw Lord Shiva standing before him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The example given here is that Daksha got up as if he were awakened from deep sleep. In Sanskrit, this is called Supta Ivot Tastoho. The meaning is that after a man awakens from sleep, he immediately remembers all the duties which he must execute. Daksha was killed, and his head was taken away and burned to ashes. His body was lying dead. But by the grace of Lord Shiva, as soon as the head of a goat was joined to his body, Daksha came back to consciousness again. All right, surgeons, now you know that there are many things you haven't learned yet how to do. And here it's showing that, in ancient times, surgery was performed also, but on a much higher level than what they're doing now.
In the modern level, the modern science, Maharaj, like right now, pigs are the primary focus for xenotransplantation. Means like their anatomical and physiological similarities are there with humans, apparently. So they're taking heart valves of the pig.
Taking what?
The heart valves.
Oh, the heart. Yeah.
Yeah, valves, and then they're harvesting from the pig's heart, and then they're implanting into the humans.
Right. You get a pig heart.
And pig heart valves as well as hearts also. Whole pig hearts also have been experimentally transplanted into humans.
Right. How about the genitals of the pig?
Kidneys are also used.
Okay.
Livers are used.
Okay.
Skin is also used.
Yeah.
Pancreas of pig also is used.
How long does it last, though?
See, when they replace the heart, that guy lived for 2 more months.
Just 2 months.
Yeah, they don't live very long, especially heart or brain. I don't know if they do the brain also, but the heart, they don't live very long. Anyway, they live something.
Yeah, there's particularly because the pigs are capable of certain viruses, but then those viruses are the bacteria.
Yeah.
When they transport plant into the human body, then they get other types of infections, and that's the hard part to manage.
Okay, so Daksha was killed, and his head was taken away and burned to ashes. His body was lying dead and basically headless. But by the grace of Lord Shiva, as soon as the head of a goat was joined to the body, Daksha came back to consciousness again. This indicates that consciousness is also individual. Now, what does that mean exactly? If you cut someone's head off and then you put the head of a goat on that person, they can revive consciousness. That means that consciousness has nothing to do with the body. That's what it basically means. Daksha actually took another body when he took on the head of a goat. But because consciousness is individual, as his consciousness remained the same, although his bodily condition changed. Now, what does that say, though? He gets the body, he gets the head of a goat, and he maintains his consciousness that he had as a human being. So therefore, consciousness is not something unique to the human body. It's different. It transcends the human body.
Yes.
This bodily construction has nothing to do with the development of consciousness. Okay, that's the point right there. Consciousness is carried with the transmigration of the soul. There are many instances of this in Vedic history, such as the case of Maharaj Bharata. After quitting his body as a king, Maharaj Bharata was transferred to the body of a deer, but he retained the same consciousness. He knew that although formerly he was King Bharata, he had been transferred to the body of a deer because of his absorption in thinking of a deer at the time of his death. Whoa. Now that proves that the most important moment in life is the moment when you're going to die. That and whatever is in your mind at that moment, that's what's going to take you to your next body. So if we're only thinking of Krishna and serving Krishna with love and devotion, yeah, we get a spiritual body and go back to Godhead. But if we're thinking of our goat that you have, or a dog that you have, guess what? You become a goat or a dog in your next life. So we got to be really careful. This moment of death is the most important moment. We have to prepare for it. You can't say, well, I'll just live my life wantonly now, but at the moment of death, I'll remember Krishna. It doesn't work like that. Practice makes perfect. So you have to be thinking Krishna all the time, caring about Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, engaging in devotional service, so that at the moment of death, you can remember Krishna. So all these activities are to help us. It's like a preparation for the moment of death. And the moment of death, we don't know when it's going to happen. So therefore, we should always be chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So King Bharata, he had been transferred to the body of a deer because of his absorption in thinking of a deer at the time of his death. Oh my God, you can just imagine what's going on now, what people are thinking at the moment of death. They're thinking about their 401k, they're thinking about their wife or their children or their money, thinking about their money, and but not thinking about Krishna. In spite of his having the body of a deer, however, his consciousness was as good as it was in the body of a king. Wow, that's a huge statement. The arrangement by the Lord is so nice that if a person's consciousness is turned into Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt that in his next life he will be a great devotee of Krishna, even if he is offered a different type of body. Wow. So if you have the body, let's say the head of a goat, like Daksha did, right? You can still function because your consciousness is not in any way inhibited by the head of a goat. That's amazing. At that time, when Daksha saw Lord Shiva, who rides upon a bull, his heart, which was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, was immediately cleansed, just as the water in a lake is cleansed by autumn rains. Ah, nice. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. This is real knowledge. Yeah, Shiva rides on what? What is this? Bull. Yeah. Here is an example of why Lord Shiva is called auspicious. Ashutosh. Right? If anyone sees Lord Shiva with devotion and reverence, his heart is immediately cleansed. Wow, what a statement that is. King Daksha was polluted by envy of Lord Shiva, and yet by seeing him with a little love and devotion, his heart immediately became cleansed. In the rainy season, the reservoirs of water become dirty and muddy. But as soon as the autumn rain comes, all the water immediately becomes clear and transparent. Similarly, although Daksha's heart was impure because of his having slandered Lord Shiva, meaning insulted Lord Shiva, for which he was severely punished, Daksha now came to consciousness And just by seeing Lord Shiva with veneration and respect, he became immediately purified. Veneration and respect. So veneration means you have holy, let's say, thoughts and respect. That's the way we should see people, with holy thoughts and respect. King Daksha wanted to offer prayers to Lord Shiva, but as he remembered the ill-fated death of his daughter, Sati, his eyes filled with tears, and in bereavement his voice choked up and he could not say anything. At this time, King Daksha, afflicted by love and affection, was very much awakened to his real senses. Real senses, that's good. With great endeavor, he pacified his mind, checked his feelings, and with pure consciousness began to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. Haribol. So you have to pacify your mind, check your feelings, and with pure consciousness begin to offer prayers to Lord Shiva. King Daksha said, okay, now we're going to hear all these prayers. And these are the type of prayers that we should repeat ourselves, because these are prayers by enlightened living entities, just like Lord Daksha. Lord Daksha said, my dear Lord Shiva, I committed a great offense against you, but you are so kind that instead of withdrawing your mercy, you have done me a great favor by punishing me. Here's an example of how punishment is a great benediction. You and Lord Vishnu never neglect even useless, unqualified brahmanas. Why then should you neglect me, who am engaged in performing sacrifice? Okay, good question. Although Daksha felt defeated, he knew that his punishment was simply the great mercy of Lord Shiva. See, now that's the correct way to accept punishment. We shouldn't get upset, angry, envious, and so forth. No, we should accept that this punishment is benediction from a genuine devotee. He remembered that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are never neglectful of the brahmanas, even though the brahmanas are sometimes unqualified. According to Vedic civilization, a descendant of a Brahmana family should never be heavily punished. Interesting. This was exemplified in Arjuna's treatment of Asvatthama. Asvatthama was the son of a great Brahmana, Dronacharya, and in spite of his having committed the great offense of killing all the sleeping sons of the Pandavas, for which he was condemned even by Lord Krishna, Arjuna excused him by not killing him because he happened to be the son of a Brahmana. The word Brahma Bandhusu used here is significant. Brahma Bandhu means a person who is born of a Brahmana father, but whose activities are not up to the standard of the Brahmanas. Such a person is not a Brahmana, but a Brahma Bandhu, someone who's left or stopped being a Brahmana. Daksha proved himself to be a Brahma Bandhu. He was born of a great Brahmana father, Lord Brahma, but his treatment of Lord Shiva was not exactly Brahminical. Therefore, he admitted that he was not a perfect Brahmana. Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu, however, are affectionate even to an imperfect Brahmana. Wow. Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses, so that he would know that he had done wrong. Well, that's exactly what happened. He put the head of the donkey on his head. Imagine, huh?
Goat.
Goat, yeah, the goat. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, and Lord Shiva towards the fallen brahmanas, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice, as is the duty of brahmanas, and thus he began his prayers to Lord Shiva. Good for him. And now he's saying prayers. And these are prayers that we can recite also. Vidyatapo vratadaran mukha sma vipran brahmatmatvam avitum prataman tvam asrak tad brahmanan parama sarva vipatusu pasi palan pasun eva vibo pragrihita danda. My great and powerful Lord Shiva, you were created first from the mouth of Brahma in order to protect the Brahmanas in pursuing education, austerities, vows, and self-realization. Wow, that's a nice statement. As protector of the Brahmanas, you always protect the regulative principles they follow, just as a cowherd boy keeps a stick in his hand to give protection to the cows. Okay, I think maybe we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. This is getting more and more exciting. So what is our takeaway? Well, our takeaway is that Lord Shiva punished Daksha, not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses so that he would know that he had done wrong. That's a very significant statement. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen Brahmanas, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice as the duty of a Brahmana, and thus he began the prayers to Lord Shiva. Okay. Even with the head of a goat, right?
Yes.
All right. All right. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And we'll continue this tomorrow. So now we're going to hear these choice prayers given by Daksha. So these are the type of prayers that we should recite.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, one quick question. Now, we will be praying even animals also, like in this case, like Daksha is got a goat head now. Is it like even Egypt also people used to pray like some kind of animals, like bull, cat, and all. What is the relevance here? Because after giving goat head, then
That's only to prove that the body is material but consciousness is transcendental. So even having the goat's head, a person can still function like a human being. So consciousness is not a material thing. That's the whole point. When Lord
Perfect.
Chaitanya was going through the Charikanda forest, the animals started chanting Hare Krishna. There were lions, there were tigers. All the animals started to chant Hare Krishna and dance. Of course, we don't have that power that Lord Chaitanya has, but he showed that even the animals can have spiritual consciousness. That's only because of the unlimited power of Lord Chaitanya. But he got the animals to dance and chant Hare Krishna. Just imagine. And, the lion was hugging the lamb, or something you would never see because they usually eat the lambs, right? But they were hugging and they were chanting Hare Krishna. The same way, Prabhupada comes to the United States. Nobody knows anything about Krishna consciousness. And he goes down to Tompkins Square, where it's like, one of the worst places in the whole United States. And he starts chanting Hare Krishna. And some people take up Krishna consciousness and become real devotees and dedicate their whole life to serving Prabhupada and Krishna. That means that even in the worst place, with the worst people, still you can make devotees. I was there. I didn't actually see Prabhupada there, but I had gone to Tompkins Square because a lot of hippies and people go there to smoke marijuana, and it was a horrible place. In fact, the first time I went there, I saw two men kissing each other. They're homosexuals. I was really shocked. I had never seen that before. So you can just imagine what that place was like, right? But Prabhupada goes there and purifies it and makes devotees. So we should not be surprised that Daksha gets the head of a goat and still is a devotee and is saying prayers. We're going to read the prayers that he makes to Lord Shiva with the head of a goat. So consciousness is not based on a material body. It's much more elevated than that. Otherwise, how can Daksha have the head of a goat and start to recite beautiful prayers that we're going to hear now, Lord Shiva? Okay, well, thank you very much. And please chant Hare Krishna and meditate on what you heard today, especially the following. Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha not to bring him, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses, so that he would know that he had done wrong. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen Brahmanas, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice as is the duty of brahmanas. And thus he began his prayers to Lord Shiva. Wow. So at one point they were enemies, and now they are surrendered to Lord Shiva. Very interesting.
Maharaj, just because of that, because of that incident, he immediately flipped from the other side to the
Yeah.
prayer side,
Yes.
insulting to the prayers.
Yes.
So he learned the lesson like with
Yeah.
that punishment immediately.
Yeah. So Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses so that he would know that he had done wrong. That's a real preacher. That's a real preacher.
So Maharaj, how to understand this is it a right understanding that this is happening because of the devotee's mercy, like Lord Shiva's mercy on Daksha, because it's very difficult for a person.
He's not trying to get Budla.
But he's giving mercy. Basically.
Yeah. He's not to get, no, he's not trying to destroy Daksha. He's has only good desires to rehabilitate Daksha. That's the heart of a real devotee. You know. So he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses, so that he would know that he had done wrong. That is the main statement right there. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen brahmanas, including even himself. Although he was fallen, his vow was to execute the sacrifice, as is the duty of brahmanas, and thus he began his prayers to Lord Shiva. Wow, so at one point they insult Lord Shiva. And the other point is that now they venerate Lord Shiva because they've come to their senses. Yeah. That's the glory of pure devotees. Okay, thank you, my dear devotees. Please think about these things today. And here's our takeaway. Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses so that he would know that he had done wrong. Daksha could understand this, and he acknowledged the great mercy of Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva towards the fallen brahmanas. So what was the rehabilitation of Daksha? Well, they cut off his head, threw it away and burned it, and then put the head of a donkey. It was a donkey, right?
Goat.
A goat. Yeah, put the head of a goat on Daksha's body. Now you can understand that previously there was advanced surgeries done. Imagine that you cut off the head of the person and put a goat's head on, and he still has consciousness.
And then he got the consciousness immediately, not a recovery time.
Yeah. So that proves that consciousness is not a material thing. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada. These are all major statements. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please think about what we read today and what we talked about today. And our takeaway is Lord Shiva punished Daksha not as one does his enemy. Rather, he punished Daksha just to bring him to his senses so that he would know that he had done wrong. Wow. So when a mother gets real angry at her child for doing something wrong, you have to be careful how you want to train the child. You don't want to scare the child. So Prabhupada said, show the stick, but don't use it.
Very significant.
Yeah, very significant. Yeah. So because you just want to teach the child that he's done something wrong. You don't want to scare the child, and you can't imagine how devastating it is when a parent starts screaming at the child and starts beating the child. Sometimes kids commit suicide for being so harshly dealt with by their parents, or they become, you know, frightened so much that it affects their consciousness and they can't function properly, or they become so angry that the rest of their life they become like a criminal. So you have to be careful. Uh, remedial punishments is something that you have to learn. It's not meant to scare the child or frighten the child so much that it affects their consciousness for the rest of their life. And actually, scaring someone is a sin. It's very sinful, especially if it's a child. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy.
Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Dr. Prabhu will come now for the doctor appointment.
Okay, no problem.